Hi, talkers. Happy Thursday, and welcome to today's section of Care Talk, which is on coping with isolation during COVID-19. Today, we're going to review some ways to stay connected, not just with those around us, but also to ourselves and to the world at large. So, the first thing I'd like to do is introduce myself. My name's Tara Hanna, and I am one of the care team coordinators for Student Affairs. And we have a great series of care talks to help everyone get through this. You can also go to our COVID-19 resources page and get the accompanying packet, which is a 5-day program that goes along with this care talk and gives you a lot of helpful links and spells out some useful tips. So, the first thing that we want to talk about is connecting with ourselves. And the first part of that is not just who am I or what's my name or what do I like and dislike. It's really also about getting comfortable with yourself. Most people now have a lot of time alone with themselves, more so than they ever have had before. And that can be really uncomfortable for some people. That can be related to intrusive thoughts that maybe you don't want to have when you're alone, like thinking about every mistake you've ever made or every embarrassing moment you've ever had. And so it's really important to be able to be comfortable with being alone and then being able to retrain and refocus your thoughts in an appropriate and productive manner. So, one of the things that is a great place to start is finding out if you're an introvert or an extrovert. Most people know what those terms mean. If you're an introvert, you tend to be less of a people person and you tend to be very comfortable being alone or in solo activities and not necessarily seeking out large social scenes. Extroverted people are exactly the opposite. They thrive in those social environments and being around a lot of people and meeting new people, going new places, doing new things, things like that. There's also some middle ground that a lot of people don't know about, and that's ambiverts. And that's actually where I fall when I took one of the quizzes that's in the links in the accompanying program for this. And an ambivert is someone who has strong traits in both areas. So I like to be at home. I don't mind being alone. Don't mind going places alone or being by myself, those very introverted traits. But I'm also have some extroverted traits in that I don't mind going to parties. I don't mind meeting new people and I don't have anxiety related to social events or being in big crowds and things like that. It's not that it's uncomfortable for me, just sometimes I'd rather not. So I fall in that middle ground, which I think a lot of people do. And it's kind of a spectrum. It's not a you're necessarily one or the other. You just might fall somewhere in the in between. And that can vary day to day, week to week, just depending on how you're feeling. If you're not sure which one of these sounds like you can take the quiz yourself, but it doesn't define you or who you are. And like I said, this can be really fluid. So, one of the things that when we talk about connecting with ourselves and being comfortable with ourselves is knowing what makes us uncomfortable. Social isolation is a lot more uncomfortable for extroverts because this is not their bubble. It's a little bit outside of their wheelhouse, and it's not a situation that they put themselves in often or find themselves in often, so they may struggle more. So, one of the things for extroverts to focus on is how can you get that same feeling of social connectedness by still being at home? So, one of the main things you want to look at is how can you be social in a healthy and appropriate way using all of the social media tools we have available to us now. So, this does not mean just hopping on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and just scrolling for hours and hours and reading things. Using social media appropriately to stay connected means direct contact with other people. So, is it a group chat? Is it a scheduled? I know everybody's kind of sick of Zoom right now, but something like that that's not school related, that's fun, where it's a group of people who maybe you connect to them that way every week at a certain time or day. And we'll get into that more later. but making sure that when you use social media, it's making direct connections. And for introverts, since being alone is kind of our gig and we're already comfortable kind of with that aspect of it, it's also the comfortable with being alone with yourself, maybe more than you're used to, or just in a different context. That, hey, yeah, I'm an introvert and I don't mind being alone, but I did like having the freedom to, go to the park to go for a walk, um, and things like that, which now is not necessarily taken away, but it is a lot more limited. Um, so looking at those things and finding out how to manage them. And a loss of freedom is a big one that we'll get into later that people feel. But for right now, focus on yourself and connecting with who you are in terms of what are your feelings about this. Do some self exploration. There are some great links in the first day program, and it's really getting in tune with yourself of things that you don't normally think about that might seem basic. And it's not just what do I like or dislike, but why. Kind of try to dive into it and delve into it. Well, I don't like scary movies. Why is that? Is it because you don't like to be scared? You don't get a thrill or excitement out of it like some people do? Uh, or is there another reason? Kind of explore those things about yourself, and that can help you get more comfortable with other aspects. Maybe it's because they make you feel anxious, and feeling anxious causes you a lot of distress. And you can kind of start to explore that and work on that. You can also think about self development and learning new skills. And I know everybody's kind of sick of online learning at this point already, but when we say learning new skills, talking about something that you're interested in that you want to learn. Do you want to learn another language? Do you want to learn an instrument? Do you want to learn new art skills? There's a lot of great links, again, to programs that are available. A lot of companies are doing like 3-month free trials. Fender Guitars is, if you want to take 3 months free guitar lessons and see if that's something you like. Or Rosetta Stone has a deeply discounted student membership, and they're also offering 3 months free to help learn a new language. So there's a lot of opportunities out there like that that can help fill your time with yourself and help you grow as a human being. Um, that's obviously not just like one day, that's an ongoing thing. And taking some time each day to explore that and spend some time with you and self caring for yourself and exploring things about yourself is a really great way to kind of cope with some of the isolation. Other things that help are setting a daily routine and really getting in the flow of things. So our regular routines have been disrupted. We don't necessarily have to be awake, showered, full makeup, full dress, and drive somewhere in a certain amount of time. Now it looks different. And we kind of try to get out of a habit, I think, when we're home, even though we're supposed to be doing school or work things, because we get to be more comfortable and we're in our bubble of comfort. So we're not going to change out of our PJs. We're not talking to anyone really face to face. So it's okay if I skip brushing my teeth. Um, those things, even though they seem small, really are important to not feeling so isolated and like everything in your life has been disrupted. Keeping to a simple routine daily is one of the most effective things you can do to help combat isolation. So even if you are going to stay in PJs all day and stay comfortable or be in comfy clothes, change those clothes every morning like you would if you were going to school. Even if something didn't get dirty the day before, change your shirt. Put on fresh clothes, style your hair, even if no one else is going to see you. Do your makeup, even if it's something simple, like doing your eyebrows and your lip gloss. Just simple things like that. Try to have breakfast, lunch, dinner at the same time every day. Those types of small things that create just even a little bit of routine go a long way to helping things feel a little bit more normal. Other great things you can do to kind of help combat isolation that people don't think of because they're kind of things we should do anyway are eating right, take care of your health, don't binge on junk food all day just because you're home. It doesn't do your body good physically, and then it also makes you feel yucky mentally. So we really want to focus on you don't have to start a new diet. You don't have to, go all out with health foods. but just be aware and monitor your intake of junk food and make sure it's not becoming excessive and that you are still trying to eat healthy and regularly. Another thing is make sure you get enough activity. It's really hard when you're used to walking across campus several times a day and now you're just at home doing everything. But you can do simple things to keep active. If even if you're not an active person to begin with, which I'm not. I'm not big in exercise. I know it's great for you, and I totally support that. It's just not my thing. So that's difficult for me. But I've got 3 sets of stairs in my house that I have to walk regularly during the day, and I try to walk them a little bit extra just to get more activity into my daily routine. Because with our crazy weather around here in Kansas, I might not always be able to get outside. But getting outside every day is also great. Get some sun on your skin for 10 to 15 minutes, get your vitamin D, take a short walk around the neighborhood. You don't have to do massive cardio or weight training. You don't even have to break a sweat, but do keep yourself out and moving while maintaining appropriate social distancing too. Uh, YMCA has the 360 program. All of their classes and things are free and available online to do at home. If you're someone who used to do fitness classes and that's your thing, explore those. There's a lot of places that are offering free online movement and exercise programs. And then, of course, there's always things available on YouTube as well. Hunt around, see what there is that works for you, if it's yoga, cardio, whatever it might be. That's also a great way to go into our next thing, which is connecting with your friends and family and making sure that just because you can't see each other as often as you used to, that you're still connecting and being with each other on a regular basis. So maybe you do use Zoom to meet up and have a family dinner together once a week, or a game night once a week, or you even have movie night a couple times a week with your friends through Netflix's new Netflix party uh, service. There's a lot of ways that you can connect with your family and friends that can help with that social isolation and that you can change it up a lot of ways. I think one of the things that we forget is that we are in a time where social media is a thing and we do connect with people so frequently uh, through technology that to think that we need to continue to do it or do it in different ways to stay connected during a time like this kind of skips our mind. We don't really think about it because picking up our phone and hopping on Facebook or Instagram has become such a default thing that we do. So explore other ways that you can use those platforms to engage with others. Um, and once you get, something down with your friends and family, start expanding and exploring out into community things. A lot of local community organizations, churches, things like that have set up online either religious services or book clubs or community events that were scheduled, in the community before all this happened. And I've now moved it online and give people an online option to still come together and participate. And remembering that even though we all are at home and socially isolating, doesn't mean that we can't still be a part of our communities. Keeping that sense of community is so important for human beings. We are social creatures. And there are a lot of wonderful ways to still feel engaged and a part of the whole, a part of the greater thing that we all belong to. I think that using social media to find groups that you may not have known exist locally is a good thing, and researching something for out there on what fits and what interests you. Online book clubs are another big thing. Obviously, online gaming communities were already a thing before this, but some have expanded for more casual gamers or even turning board games into free available online options. So it's not just people who used to game before this, but other people who are now looking for ways to spend time with their friends and family or community members while we're in this area. One of the last pieces of connecting is connecting to the greater world around us. What we how we would have thought of before to connecting to that being travel and having a vacation or going on a trip or doing distance learning maybe in another country, something like that. those opportunities aren't something that's available to us now, but they are available to us virtually. And while it's not exactly the same thing, you can still have some of the experiences. And there are dozens of museums who are offering free virtual tours right now, including the Louvre and the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, the National Museum in London. All of the Smithsonian museums in Washington, D.C. are offering virtual tours. And there are others all over the world where you can explore different types of art, culture, history. The Field Museum in Chicago has theirs open, the National Aquarium in Baltimore, the Monterey Bay Aquarium, all sorts of things. A lot of zoos have animal camps set up or virtual field trips, virtual safaris, all sorts of things that can connect you to, in this case, nature, history, art, whatever things that are interesting to people. There are also other places that you can just visit, like landmark wise. The Great Wall of China, the Great Pyramids of Giza, all of these things have Google's awesome with the 360 experience for a lot of these places, and you can kind of explore as though you were there. And even I think NASA's Mission Control Center has a live cam that you can kind of like see them working and explore and walk around in there, which is really cool. And there are crazy different museums out there for all sorts of things. If you're one of those people who are thinking, I hate museums, museums are boring, why would I want to do this virtually? I don't like doing this in real life. But museums aren't all just art and history and more academic or stuffy type things that a lot of people sometimes think of. The National Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. is the history of spies and international espionage, and it's very cool and has an online tour. There's also the Mutter Medical Museum of Medical Oddities in Philadelphia that can be checked out. There's also all of the Ripley's Believe It or Not, which is wild, wild stuff, but it is a museum of sorts in the way that things are presented. So don't write off something just because of the way it may sound. I know when I said book club earlier, a lot of people are probably like, I'm not joining Oprah's book club. This is not something I'm interested in. I'm not doing it. But there are a lot of other options out there that are geared even not towards novels, but towards short stories or towards comics. And the point is not so much the reading as it is the community and the shared appreciation of whatever material you guys are getting together and talking about and chatting about. And it's kind of the same way with getting out there into the greater world and kind of exploring what there is it's not just all about getting out there and seeing, but then you can also bring it back into a conversation and process with other people. Maybe you want to do the Great Wall of China 360 experience, and you have a friend who was planning on going to China for the summer, and now those plans are canceled. Schedule a time, do that together simultaneously online. Have a conversation on the phone or via text while you're both doing that. Make it a shared experience. Those are other options. Just because you're home alone doesn't mean you have to be alone. And going along with that, being physically alone and feeling lonely or a sense of loneliness are not necessarily the same thing. Some people are comfortable being physically alone, but not with the lack of connectedness, kind of like we talked about earlier. Other people don't like to be physically alone, but they don't mind feeling lonely at times if other people aren't engaging with them. And that might sound like kind of a strange thing, but it is a thing. And it's just kind of balancing out which of those things that fit you best, where you're comfortable and where you're not. I would really encourage you, though, while you have this time and you are at home in a safe, comfortable environment with just you, yourself, and you, where you don't have to worry about anybody watching or becoming embarrassed, that you do take the opportunity sometimes to kind of go outside of your bubble and outside of your comfort zone and explore. So maybe you have zero interest in learning a new language, or you are terrified to even try to learn an instrument because you're not very musical inclined. I know I'm very uncoordinated, so the idea of learning guitar is something that doesn't appeal to me. But if I were going to try to push myself out of my comfort zone, maybe I would try that. Maybe I would try to take that up and see if maybe it does improve my hand eye coordination because I'm starting to use muscles in my hands and fingers in a way that I didn't before. We never know until we try. And I know it's very easy in times like this to become overwhelmed and frustrated and to kind of shut down and feel like you don't want to do anything or try anything. And those are very real feelings. And dollars to donuts, everybody is going to experience those at least at some point or another during this journey that we're all on together. So it's okay. Don't fight that, roll with it, and understand that it's totally normal and that, it's only temporary. This whole situation, though we don't know a lot and we don't have a really solid timeline of anything, is temporary. We know that this will not last forever, even though we don't know when it will end. And even if that thought isn't totally comforting right now, know that the feeling of loneliness or being overwhelmed aren't permanent either. And if you try to kind of push yourself outside of your comfort zone, even just a little bit, it can really help you guide you through those moments. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to fight against it. You can kind of lean into it, into that discomfort and that feeling overwhelmed, and find something, search for something, use that as motivation that makes you feel better or more at ease. Uh, Opening up a dialogue with friends and family about how they're coping and going deeper than just surface conversation is another really great option to feel and stay connected. And maybe this isn't the time to get into some really deep stuff with friends or family members, although telehealth and online therapy are options right now, most certainly. But there's a time and a place for everything, and that's really for you to really delve into and figure out for yourself. But, really having real conversations about, yeah, I'm scared, or I'm really nervous, or if this goes on much longer, I don't know what I'm going to do, or, I'm worried about this timeline that I had set for myself to accomplish something, and now I can't make that anymore, and that's upsetting me. Sharing those and not just keeping it all in because you think everybody else is also struggling with stuff. When we share that with one another, we share the burden, and it also helps share connectedness too, and knowing that we are not alone physically or even in how we're feeling, um, just because we're kind of siloed in our homes. I am open to any questions if anyone has any to put in the chat. That's always open and available. Um, being creative is another great way to pass your time, even if you don't feel like a creative person. I don't have any artistic, really talent at all, but I do like me some adult coloring books. And I also like collaging. So if you got a stack of magazines sitting around, I know this kind of sounds like, summer camp stuff, but really, if it's something that helps you be mindful and in the moment of focusing on what you're coloring or what you're cutting or pasting or whatever it may be, that keeps you centered in the moment instead of catastrophizing about the future or ruminating on the past, those can be very, very good for your mental health. Even if it seems silly or childish, those types of small outlets and small moments, it can really, really be beneficial. Even if you don't have a green thumb and everything you've ever planted in your life has died, get out in the sunshine, get some fresh air, try to plant some flowers, try to plant some seeds from the apple you just ate. You may get something, you may not, but it's an activity that keeps you focused in the present and doing something that is not what ifing yourself into a panic attack. And speaking of panic attacks, don't forget to stay connected to your healthcare providers, both physically and mentally. Physical health and your mental health are so important right now because we do have less interaction with other people who might be able to say to us, "Hey, are you feeling okay?" and recognize things that we may not readily be able to recognize in ourselves. So stay in contact with your doctor's office if it's through a nurse's line or through telehealth services. Keep up with your therapy appointments if you have them, either by phone or, like I said, I know everybody's sick of Zoom, or by video telehealth. Even ask for extra sessions if you need them. Don't be afraid to. Even if it's a support group that you used to go to in person, see if that's now available online or try to find an online version. It might be at a national level instead of a local level, but it still gives you additional ways to connect and to look after yourself, mentally and again, physically. It's all interconnected and it's all so important. So, again, if you go to the Care Team COVID-19 resource page, there is the 5-day program that we have for coping with isolation that goes along with this video. It's meant to be completed over 5 days, and it gives you learning objectives, skills, and a ton of resources to review for all the things that I've gone over today. And don't forget that once you kind of tried each of these things in terms of connecting with yourself, friends and family, the community, and the greater world, that you can bring it all together and going back to creating a routine, making each of those things a part of your weekly or monthly routine. So maybe every week you're going to have a movie night with friends, or twice a month you are going to explore via 360 another interesting place in the world you've never been able to visit. Make those things part of your routine, and it will make going through the day to day and social isolation a lot more interesting and also a lot easier. So, thank you for watching today. If you have any questions, we can use our last few minutes right now. And otherwise, um, this video will stay posted even after the live stream ends and will be accessible. And you will be able to find that link on the Care Team website as well, wichita.edu/care. Doesn't look like we have any questions coming in right now. So I will go ahead and say good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day. Thanks.